welcome to Wellness Within Integrative Healing. I am Kristen, certified integrative healing practitioner and founder of Wellness Within. I am asked questions daily, whether it's from friends or family or just, people I've helped out in the past. I am asked about supplements. What do you think of the ingredients in this? What do you think could be causing these symptoms? How can I reduce my chemical burden? I have friends and family that will send me their labs from the doctor that they just got back and say, can you look over these for me? And I love it. I love helping people. One of the biggest questions that I get from people that are not familiar with integrative healing or with what I do or my healing approach is what exactly is it that you do? So I run functional labs to look for imbalances and deficiencies in the body and then create custom protocols based on those results. There's no one size fits all approach to healing. Through time and learning and even seeing it firsthand, when the body is given the proper tools, it will begin to heal. The integrative healing approach covers not only the physical aspect of healing, as well as the emotional and physical. Our thoughts are very, very powerful. Like a lot of people, and I'm seeing this as more and more common, and I think it's just from this go, go, go mentality that we're in, and just, we have to be in this, we have to keep going, we have to be productive, we have to, there's just so much that we buy into that is not true. If we are stuck in a pattern of fight or flight, especially, our body doesn't know the difference between a real threat or a perceived threat. So a body that is stuck in fight or flight is not going to heal. It doesn't want to heal. It doesn't think it has time to heal. It's just going to keep you going. So that's not healthy. We need to address the thoughts and the patterns that are keeping us here. When a client first begins, the first phase of the program, we run the organic acids test. It's the rebuilding and the rebalancing phase. The first test that I run with pretty much any client is going to be the organic acids test. It has almost 80 markers that give us kind of a metabolic snapshot of a person's overall health. The markers on that test include a look at intestinal and yeast and bacteria, vitamin and mineral levels, oxidative stress, neurotransmitters, mitochondrial function. We look at oxalates. Oxalates are, I'm going to have to do a video on its own, because that definitely is something that when those are high and people are consuming a lot of oxalates, that correlates with a lot of chronic illnesses. And just addressing those alone can make such a difference in how a person feels. And I know that personally. I was there. My first test was very, very high. Often when practitioners are looking at the oats test, they see those yeast and fungal markers and the bacterial markers, and they address it right away. They jump right to treating the gut. Sometimes they don't even go beyond the first page. So if these markers are mildly elevated, I'm not going to address them till gut work. We would expect a body that has deficiencies and imbalances not to be keeping those things in check. So we give the body we step back and we say, okay, I'm going to give you tools to address, these other things. And a lot of stuff comes back into balance. And that's kind of why I run the tests in the order that I do. If we have majorly elevated things, then definitely we might add in some support that'll just help us until we get through the rest of phase 1. Blood work. Blood work is run alongside genetics as the next step. I can order this, or it can be ordered through your primary care physician. A lot of times you can get insurance to cover it. So if you haven't had blood work run in a while, you can order it, have your doctor order it for you. I will give you the list of what needs run. So you will definitely have everything. If you've had it run recently, I'll use it within the last 3 months or so and can go over it. After that, we kind of a fresh look at what's going on because things do change over time. But blood work allows us to look for more healing opportunities. With the blood work, we often hear, of someone going to the doctor with these symptoms, and the doctor's like, well, everything's fine. I don't know what to tell you. Your blood work's within normal range. The person leaves the doctor's office, they're frustrated, they're defeated, and they just accept that they have chronic fatigue syndrome, or they just have fibromyalgia. And these things are just symptoms that enough people have that they put a label on. That's what a disease is. So it's symptoms, but something is causing these symptoms. And a lot of times in these patients, it's the same thing causing them, but it's not being addressed. We're just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. Remember that with blood work, your normal range is going to be 95% of the population. You have 2.5% above, 2.5% below, and everyone in between there is in normal range. I don't know if you've looked around, but 95% of the population is not in what I would call ideal health. So what we want to do is we want to kind of narrow that down into optimal levels. So when we look at your optimal levels, those are where you're going to feel really good. Those are where your body's going to function best. Ferritin is a great example. Women's range, I want to say off the top of my head, I can't remember. I want to say it's like 11 to 310-ish. If your ferritin is 11, you are going to feel terrible. If your ferritin is 300 and above, you're gonna be really toying with disease there. That's a disease level once you get up that high. So what is in the normal ranges, it just means that you're not quite sick yet. And a lot of times, and I've seen, even with my own in the past, like before I went on this healing journey, I would hear, well, you're just above, you're just outside of normal range. Well, that's really far from optimal range. So we definitely take a different approach to blood work. Genetics, if you have ever run a 23andMe, there's something called raw data, and 23andMe runs sales all the time. So I try to always post in my group like, hey, it's on sale. If you're thinking about working with me in the future, you might want to grab it now. Here we can look at, we'll look at your genes. We'll look at what could be impacting your health. So for example, if someone comes in with low motivation and fatigue and something that they would go to the doctor and the doctor would say, hey, I think you're depressed. Well, maybe not. Maybe you are just someone who burns through their dopamine really fast. Or, someone who comes in and they have anxiety. Anxiety is so common. Really, if you've got a low serotonin level, if we can support serotonin, and we support it not only through addressing those deficiencies earlier on, but we can kind of directly support it with amino acids. You're going to be feeling so much better, and you're going to be addressing why. Why do you feel like this? You're not necessarily just going to be put on a medication, band-aid the symptoms. You're going to have to stay on the medication, and that's just your label. You're slapped with a label. So the last test that we run, after we look at the organic acids test, the blood work, and the genetics, after that we run the Dutch test. The Dutch test looks at hormones, adrenals, we can see your cortisol pattern, we see all kinds of stuff on this test. The reason that I run this last in phase 1 is because once we've given the body tools that it needs to address the earlier things, often these kind of start to fall into place. The Dutch test is, you've probably heard of like saliva cortisol testing, or a lot of doctors will just do like serum, hormone testing, 24-hour urine testing, stuff like that. The main reason that I prefer the Dutch over these is that the Dutch shows the metabolites. So we see exactly what's going on with your cortisol and hormones. For example, without them, a lot of people are diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. That's another really big popular one right now. A lot of people don't have a true adrenal fatigue. They may have lower amounts of free cortisol, but their body might be breaking it down really, really quickly. So we just need to slow how quickly they break it down. Or we might have someone who is producing really high levels of cortisol, and they're burning through it really quickly. We have people that are producing, there's just all kinds of adrenal patterns that we can look at, but not often is it true adrenal fatigue. So we can see how the body's detoxifying hormones. We want to make sure that hormones are being detoxified through a safe pathway and not building up in the body in toxic levels, so that, we address that as well. And the Dutch Complete is the one that I like. It also has some organic acid markers on it, and we can compare those results to your initial oats test too. So we can kind of see, we're a couple months in, how are things looking from those initial tests? Do we need to supplement something else? Do we need to change things up a little bit? Are they improving? And a lot of times we see improvement, and that's just, the nice part of the Dutch Complete. So then after we complete phase 1 of the program, if there's still any issues, then, we'll fine tune those. I'm not opposed to running more tests. Copper zinc is one that I didn't mention, but I do run that with a lot of people because we can see indications of copper deficiency, or if someone has been high, supplementing with high dose zinc, which I know a lot of people have been since 2020, just to kind of keep their immune function up. Let's look at copper zinc and see if you've driven your copper down, or, see what's going on there. Copper is not something that a lot of people go, oh, I think I'm copper deficient, but it's common. It's very common. So we look at the copper zinc. That's another common one. So once we get into phase 2 of the program, we are going to be doing gut work. We're going to be addressing parasites, protozoa, pathogens of that sort, and heavy metals. These I do not recommend doing prior to rebuilding and rebalancing your body because it's hard on the body. We want the body as well supported as we can before we get into killing stuff and expecting it to detox really well. Symptoms, I see people that start on gut work all the time. We got to heal your gut, heal your gut, heal your gut. And then they have these terrible die-off symptoms. Well, die-off and symptoms and side effects, those can cause damage. And I am one who is here to tell you, do not push through what you're told is detox symptoms. If they are severe, they can cause damage. And I had spent years fixing what was done because a practitioner told me, oh, it's just die-off, keep going. Maybe add in some extra binders and you'll be fine. Well, I was not fine. And eventually on my own decided that's it. That's way too much. So I had to heal a lot of what was kind of undone there with my healing. So initially we run a Parawellness. We do 2 weeks on a biofilm buster, and the biofilm buster is what kind of really allows things. So your parasites, your pathogens, everything hides itself under a biofilm to protect itself from being taken care of by your body. So we kind of bust up that biofilm so things start to show up on these stool tests. If you don't, you're probably going to have a lot of false negatives. And a lot of people, I see a lot of people saying, oh, my GI map or my Parawellness or whatever other test they're doing was clean. It probably wasn't, but good. I know the practitioner that I trained under, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stool tests. And I think she said she's seen like 2 clean ones when they're done with a biofilm buster. So, and those people had done like intensive gut protocols prior to that. So, we will address the results. We'll address Parawellness results, and then we will move on to, there's a GI map. We will address SIBO. The last thing that we're going to do, the very last thing, is addressing heavy metals. And we don't test for those. You can bet that if you are living in this world today, you have had heavy metal exposure. So that's something that we do really safely, really slowly. I don't usually have you jump right into metals. I know like the Cutler group on Facebook is very much, it's a dangerous group. It works for some people, it doesn't for others, but I do not take the chance on, could you have one of these reactions? Could there be harm? We don't just take the chances. We approach everything, slowly and modestly. So that is a little bit about what I do. Actually, it's a lot about what I do. And that was just scratching the surface. So I love to work with clients. I love for people who have spent so much time trying to figure out what is causing these symptoms. Why am I feeling this way? I love to just take that off of them and tell you, I want you to focus on shifting your mindset. I want you to search for that passion and purpose in life. I want you to feel really good. And I want you to leave all of the symptoms and the guesswork and the test analysis and all that. Just leave it up to me. I will design your protocols. We'll get you feeling better. And that's what I do.